and we can start. I see already Mr. Hüfner, Zanetta, and Lutica, and I think Julie is there. Julie is also there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
I cannot hear you.
Okay. I can hear the other one now.
Can you tell me if you can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Good. Very good. So I think we can start. I'm not so sure that. Okay. I think now it's going to be recorded, or the colleagues from Friuli Venezia Giulia are going to record the session. I would say that we can start. We have already 3 minutes past. So, good morning to everybody. As you see, today we will have a joint session for peer-to-peer. We have joined 2 sessions. The first one on integrate different instruments in the energy planning policy, spatial, climate, air quality, transport, etc. And the second one is on organization and systematization of the regional energy data. With these joint sessions, we have 4 presentations. The first one will be taken by Mr. Hüfner. He works at Fraunhofer Institute and he will explain a tool on planning industrial site, which is based on multi-criteria, different criteria. So spatial room, energy, and other criteria. The first presentation is related to the first topic of the joint session, namely on integrate different instruments. After Mr. Hüfner will finish, we will have 3 presentations more. The first one from the Energy Institute is Voje Prozad, Croatian. Ruzica will present the regional data collection systematization methodology. Then the second presentation for the second session will be held by Mrs. Latara Voska, so Zanetta, for Mazovia Energy Agency. She will present on inventory of individual heat sources in Mazovia Moibo Township. Then the last one, the last presenter will be Giulio Cerino from Politecnico di Torino in Italy, and he will present, will take the presentation from Turin Energy Observatory to the Piedmont Environmental and Energy Plan, 20 years of lessons learned. After the presentation will finish, we will have a roundtable where the main key of the joint sessions will be pointed out. So I will give now, I think, Mr. Hüfner, you should be able to present. So I think you should share your monitor. So I will mute myself. Please, you can activate your microphone.
Okay. So thank you very much for the introduction. And what I want to do now, I want to present you some results of our project, which we performed just 1 year ago in an industrial park in Germany. It's about how to plan an industrial site a little bit, or not a little bit, how to plan it intelligent and how to plan it sustainable. So, and I will give you some introductions about the technologies, also about the site. And then if this is okay for you, I would also join to the real platform because it's already a software environment which was performed in the project. And I will switch in my presentation from the slides to the real working environment. Yeah. What is our concept in brief? What is our approach of solution? The planner of industrial sites have a lot of issues which they have to be aware of it and which they have to consider in the planning of an industrial site. And our approach was that we first create a 3D model, and then based on this 3D model, we put all the planning sectors which are relevant for the industrial site into this 3D model. And so finally we have a kind of virtual twin, a digital twin of the site, where the planner can make changes and you see all the effects directly in the 3D model. And this was the basic approach. Here are some slides about the basic data which we use. For sure we need some terrain, also some ground data. And we also need some information about the buildings and also about the vegetation, all the stuff. I can say it for Germany. In Germany, all the data are on a national level available and they are for free. So this makes it quite easy to create this basic land model in Germany for industrial sites. I think on a European level, it's the same because I know there is an activity on the European level that there are more geographic data and that the data are better accessible. So, and this is another slide about the houses. Here you can see there are different kinds of qualities. We will also see it in the real virtual twin, which I will show after this. You see in the bottom a block model, which is quite easy and available everywhere. You see also the roof model, which is nearly everywhere or which is everywhere available in Germany, but you can also intense the efforts for 3D modeling if there is a special house or if there's some infrastructures which you have to consider in detail. You can make also architectural model and high detail models. But this depends on the modeling process and this depends on the project, and you can also adjust the efforts you do in the areas and in the different lots or in the different companies. Yeah, and then this is a point where you have a 3D model, but a 3D model is looking quite nice. And you see all the activities and all the actions, planning activities you do. You see directly the visible effects. But the other question is, what is the objective of the city? What is the objective of the site planner? And our approach is to make a structure of objectives. And we asking what you are concerned about. You want to have a good land use development. You want to have energy performance and all this stuff. And then this is still not easy to control and not easy to fulfill, because it's still not very clear what is a good land use, what is a good energy. And that's why we make sub goals, where it's very clear and very detailed what we really want and what are the indicators about this sub goal and what is our target value. And if you make a structure like this, you have a very clear imagination about what is the planning and what are the planning objectives in this locational site. If we make it like this, we can use some approaches from the multi-criteria analysis, and we make a decision that we implement the analytic hierarchy processing. So analytic hierarchy processing, I will go quickly about this mathematic backgrounds and about this mathematic theory. But it's a very interesting approach because you have this objectives and you have this goals, like I said before, and then you can take alternative planning solutions and you make a pairwise comparison what is the best. So, and you don't say this is 10% better than the other one or 20% better than the other one, because this is very subjective and it's easy to make a mistake if you do it like this. We make it with a pairwise comparison table, which you see on the right side. And so the planner in practice, it's not very complicated for him. He just have to say, okay, sub-criterion 1 is a little bit more or stronger important than 2. And we make this for all the criterions, and automatically the priorities and of this goal and objective table is calculated. And you also have a consistency check. So the system check if that what you say is logic, and if that what you say is if there are no mistakes, logic mistakes inside. So this is also a nice support for the planner. And if you do this, you have already a very clear view about the planning objectives you want to fulfill. Here I just show an example of it. For instance, here we have 3 main goals. We want to have land use development for the real estate development, for the earnings. We want to have a good mix of branches in the industry park, and on the other side here you see we have some goals for the energy. So, and this is all these sub goals and goals are connected to indicators, and so you can really calculate it. Okay, so now I want to switch quickly. I don't want to stay too long in the slides, because I think, and I hope you think the same, it's more interesting to go into the real 3D world. And so I want to show you our virtual industrial site with an example. So I have to switch now. One moment. I will bring the picture to the other screen I have here. One moment, please. Okay. I hope you can see now the 3D model. Okay, good. So, and this is a 3D model which I was talking about before. And it's true in scale. You can make a lot of measurements and all the stuff, but it's also interactive. Means I can fly around like I want here. You see the yellow and the green. The green is empty space. The yellow one is already fulfilled with some lots. Now you can also make some interactions. For instance, here you have all the data from this company here, all the data from the lot, and also from the use. I just go quickly over the information because it's always it's anyway just data which we put like a prototype inside. And here we see, for instance, how many people is working there, what is the price of the area, what can I do on the area, which building can be there, and this is all the information I can get from the 3D model, but I can also go inside and say here, which lot, I take this one, then I take this house, put it here, scale it a little bit, and move it to a better place. So I can make all the stuff. It's also with logistic objects and all the things. As you can see, it's already a quite nice tool for the planner if you get a phone call or if you get an appointment with a potential company which want to come into the industrial site. He can prepare some plannings, and then he can show it. It goes quite quickly, but I will stop here at this point, and I will bring in for the other place already some examples which we put in. So here we have a construction company. Here we have a company from the mechanical sector, and here we have a company from the energy sector. So, and we can also see everything what we want. Here we see the tanks and the buildings. And this is already a quite nice view to give an impression what happens. But as I said, this is not the view which a planner needs, just this view. This is maybe sufficient for an architect. But if you go here, we see also directly this industrial site with all the informations. Here we see all the companies on the site. The green one is already with company. The yellow one is already with the company. The green one is still free. And if we want to check, we go, for example, into McDonald's, because this is close to an highway. So they have also McDonald's in this industrial site. Here we see the size of the plot. We see how much money they make. We see also the energy which they use. And so we have already a good impression and a good picture about what is the situation of this company and what contribution for the profile of the company's side they do. By the way, the data here, these are just examples, and it's not an original data because this is just in the city. This is just example data. And here we see a summarize about the whole site. And we can also close this, and we can see we have a good overview about the actual state of the industrial site. But what we want to do is not only have a view about the current situation, we want to also simulate some investments and see how it's affected to the industrial site. And doing this, can go in here. I hope so. It's working. Yes. And doing this, we have a method for planning. This is in German here, what you can see, but it's based on the analytic hierarchy process, as I said in the beginning of my presentation. And the first step is to define the goals of the planning. And I make already an example here. I make 3 goals and 6 sub-goals. And the first goal is the incoming from the real estate. So we have a real estate incoming and also from the taxes, which you can see it's more important. And you have also here the use. We have, we want to implement companies, especially from the sector of energy in this park. We want also to have new jobs in this industrial site. And in the energy area, we want to optimize the carbon footprint, and we want to establish energetic synergies. So this is our goal concept, and these are the priorities which came automatically from the prioritization step, which I want to show you now. It's just like this. You have to say what is more important, this one or that one. So you can change it here, and you make it for all the goals which we define. You can see it's not so much work in the beginning. Everybody think, okay, this is a lot of stuff to do and a lot of information, but for the user, it's really quite easy. You just have to say what is more important, this goal or that goal. And as you can see here also, in this red one, here is no consistency. And so I make some mistakes in my thinking, and I have to think about where the mistake is, and then I have to correct it until everything is green and logic, so there are no mistakes inside the concept. Then I can go to the next step. In the next step, this is basic data which I implement. This I have to do just one time per year, so it's also quite easy. And you see also that is a situation where I'm already green in my goals and where I still have a lot to do. So you can see it here very easily. And if you have all this information, you can define some planning solutions. One more word to the basic data. The basic data already is normally in the planning side, and in the city they already have it. But at the moment or before this project, it was not in one database. So the planner don't have to spend a lot of time to generate new data. He just have to take the data he have already, bring it in, and then we can go a step forward in our planning. So let's say we have like 3 companies here which want to come into our park. This is a construction company. And here we say, okay, we say the price is 10 euro per square meter. The branch is construction. It's for 3.22.0. So we have a big catalog in Germany where we have for all the branches one code. Here we have the incoming, which they do, and a lot of other data, for instance, jobs 25 and so on. And also about the energy, how much you use in electricity and how much you use also in gas. Sorry. So, and if we make this for all the planning alternatives, we already have a good view who can come into this park. I have also to say at this point, this is not an additional data which we generate already now. All the companies which go into a park and asking for a free plot, have this data and have to provide this data, but we use it just in a different way. So, and after this, we have all the information which we need to make it quite quick in the assessment. And it's just a click, and here you see which company bring positive effects in which goal. For instance, the green one, the energy company, have a good effect on the industrial side in the goal of incoming, of financial incoming. The red one has a good effect in the aspect of jobs, for instance, because it's a construction company. And here you see step by step who is good in which goal. And finally, there is a summarizement, which company is the best for you if we consider the goals like we said in the beginning. What goals, what priority, and depending on this definitions, the algorithm make a calculation and tell you quite clearly what is the best solution. In this case, we see here in the jobs, the construction company is the best, but in a lot of other sub-goals, there is the energy company the best. And because we put so much priority on these sectors and on this goals, finally, this is our result. And with 37.2%, this is a priority for this company, has to be in the new park. So now you're asking, what is a profit? Why don't make it like based on a feeling or whatever? But first, this tool gives a very good view about your own sub-goals and about your own objectives, what you make. Second, in industrial park is always a lot of discussions with other decision makers, and this gives you a very nice option to make a transparent and clear discussion. So thank you very much. This should be an example from our work. And if there are any questions, then yeah, feel free to ask the questions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Andreas. other questions? So actually, we don't have another question session after the presentation. We can have at the roundtable, but I don't know if you will stay at the roundtable. If you have any question, very short question, you can put now. If not, then I will introduce the second presenter.
Pio, can I just make a question?
Silvia, of course.
I don't know if I missed the first part of the presentation, so I apologize if this is something that you already told. But I was wondering about the collection of data from firms, companies. Is there any obligation, or this is something that they are obliged to provide to the municipality, and it's a consequence. What about the keeping update the data, which I mean for energy consumption, but also in general?
This is a very interesting question if you think about a practical application, because this makes a decision if you really use it or not. And we just use data which the planner of the industrial site already have. He have access to all the financial data because also the taxes go into the city. He have information about also the energy because the power net is provided by the Stadtwerke, by a city company. And but in our project, we make it like this. For the energy data, we asked the company, we said, we want to make this project, please support us, and everybody supported. So there's nobody surprised if we have some data for him, yeah. But it's working in the practical because we have all data already, but from our point of view, it makes more sense to inform the companies in the industrial site and then ask the data again. So they have the feeling also that they are involved into this planning process.
Thanks.
The update is made one time per year, so it's okay.
And whenever you plan, design such industrial sites in Germany, I was wondering if you have some laws or some general goals to have carbon neutral sites or some other constraints related to environmental issues.
Yeah. For the moment, we have like a small catalog with, let's say, 20 goals, I think, which we defined with industrial site. But I think if we go in other cities, this catalog will rise and will become bigger. For the moment, we are not focused on decarbonizing. We want to make it like a holistic approach, but you can extend it. There are some rules which you have to consider if you define new goals, but it's possible. You can focus on.
The tool allows the industrial manager to identify energetic synergy between different companies. In this case, it gives a contribution to the decarbonization because many industrial processes, they waste energy in form of heat, mostly in form of heat or hot water, steam or hot water. And the tools allows to identify processes which may use the energetic waste of the company which already are in the industrial site. So if you have to plan new companies that will come in your industrial site, you will choose the one which may work in synergetic with the industrial site, industrial companies which are already in the site. This is the idea. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. In any way, we can continue to discuss about the tool during the roundtable. I will give now the word to Mrs. Ruzika Budim. I hope I have pronounced very well your name. She will present the regional data collection systematization methodology, and she works on, at Energy Institute Ivroje Kozak in Croatia. So, Ruzika, you have the word.
Maybe you can click in the bottom right. There is a little icon below your logo.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, do you see my presentation?
Yes, but not in the presentation mode.
We can see it, but yes.
Okay.
If you click there where you was before,
Slideshow.
not there. On the yes, there.
No.
Ah, okay. Then you have to choose another monitor. Maybe you have two monitors.
Okay.
This is fine. Yeah.
Just
Was-
second, please. I have small problems with this. Share content.
If you go to the presentation, like before, you have the possibility to switch between the monitor. For 2 seconds, it works before. When you want to present,
Okay, do you see this presentation? Sorry.
this is the presentation mode. We see also the next slide, but on the 3 dots under no.
I would say we can start.
Okay.
Yes, I don't know. I hope that everybody can see.
On the 3 dots, you can switch between monitor. The icon. The last
Okay.
icon.
Maybe you make the last. Then you try to change Ruzika. If you click on the 3 points, like Julia said, maybe you can choose the monitor.
No. Under where you have the big icon, the pointer, the.
No, not that. Go down. Go down.
Also here. Yeah.
Okay.
Swap a presenter view and slideshow. If you make this.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Ruzika, I think you have to activate your microphone.
Sorry, do you hear me?
Now we see.
Sorry.
And hear you.
This is my first presentation on this project. Hello, everyone. I am Ružica Budim, a mechanical engineer with 3 years of work experience on projects, energy efficiency projects regarding district heating, cogeneration plants, thermotechnical systems, as well as working on software such as Design Builder, Transys, and R. Today, I will present the problems we know to encounter when collecting data on the example of Croatia. As an introduction to today's presentation, the importance of data will first be emphasized. Then I will list the problems and challenges in data collection, then methodology of data collection, access to data processing, and then finally conclude this presentation. It is not necessary to talk too much about data and their great importance. We all already know that without quality data, there is no quality information and quality analysis, and therefore no good decision. But what if data is not available? Here in Croatia, we have some problems. We face problems and challenges. Our team of experts at the Energy Institute Hrvoje Požar is developing energy strategies, energy action plans, and now we are also working on a comprehensive assessment of the potential for efficient heating and cooling. All of these projects require data on which to base all analysis. However, in Croatia, in some sectors, we often encounter problems such as unavailability of data, incomplete data, or incorrectly entered data, for example, negative surface value. In such a situation, it is necessary to find the best possible solution. Here is a methodology of data collection in Croatia. In the absence of data, additional methods need to be implemented, such as survey research or simulation analysis in various advanced software. The example of the service sector in Croatia, I will short explain the method of data collection and data analysis. So, when analyzing the energy consumption of the service sector, the main source in Croatia of information was the database of energy certificates. In this database, data on the heated area of the building were used for each type of building. For example, hotels, restaurants, education, office buildings, and other. In addition, data on energy source for heating, cooling, and hot water preparation were used, as well as data on technologies, which includes boilers, heat pumps, and other. But the certificate database in Croatia contains only the calculated required energy, not the delivered energy, which in addition to the physics of the building is a function of user behavior, the technology use, lighting system use, and so on. Sorry. We need additional simulation tools were used, where these parameters also taken into account. And one of these tools is Design Builder and Python. We vary at different thicknesses of the building envelopes, lighting systems, occupancy, etc., using parallel Python and Design Builder. And then, as the results, we obtained the reference-specific consumption values for each type of building in kilowatt-hour per square meter. Then, multiplying the specific consumption with surface area, we get energy consumption in absolute amount. Finally, energy consumption is obtained for each purpose: heating, domestic hot water preparation, cooling, cooking, non-thermal consumption. Non-thermal consumption includes electricity for lighting, equipment, and so on. Then energy consumption by energy sources, which includes natural gas, district heating, fossil fuels, electricity. By type of buildings, here is all type of buildings: office buildings, hospitals, hotels and restaurants, education, sport halls, sports, and other buildings. It is important to say that everything has been reduced to the level of municipalities. And here is a presentation of energy consumption in service sector for each purpose and for each energy source at the level of whole of Croatia. Lower levels are not shown in the presentation due to complexity and a large amount of data. In addition, all the data is always good to show in space for better visualization. So I enter all the energy consumption data into QGIS. We can see that results behave as expected. We can see that the highest energy consumption for heating is in the continental part of Croatia, while the highest energy consumption for cooling is in the coastal part. Here is also energy consumption in split Dalmatia county. This slide shows the distribution of consumption by sector in the split Dalmatia county, for which it is necessary to make an energy action plan within this project. We can see that after applying the described data collection methodology in the service sector, we now have a complete distribution of energy consumption in that county. Before, we have only data for household and industry sector, but not for service sector, only for public buildings. And finally, conclusion. Of course, the best solution are always the actual measured data. Therefore, it is necessary to implement consumption monitoring system wherever technically feasible. In Croatia, we have an information system for energy management, and the public sector is covered by energy data, but it is necessary to further develop the monitoring the data accuracy in order to avoid, for example, negative values of surface and so on. But in case of lack of data, it is a good solution to apply the approach shown here. When it comes to the building sector, this includes the use of simulation tools such as Design Builder, Turnsys, Modelica. And finally, I would like to end this presentation with an emphasis of the importance of quality data in energy planning, potential assessment, energy action plans, which we also need within this project. And thank you for your attention. In case of any question, feel free to contact me. Here is my email address, and I apologize because these problems with sharing my presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucica. Very good, very nice presentation. I ask if there are some questions to Lucica for her presentation. Maybe I just have a question. Lucica, have you validated the model that you have developed with meted data? So
Yes,
for sure you have an error.
Yes, we validate the data with actual data in buildings where we have actual measured data. We call some buildings, we conduct survey and then get actual measured data, but we don't have actual data in some application or so on.
So you cannot estimate the error that you have using simulation with the real data.
Sorry, can you repeat, please?
I mean, you make simulation to calculate the energy demand of some buildings. Which error do you accept if you compare the results that you have from simulation with the data that the energy distributor of the municipality they have in real cases?
Energy distributors have a data for example, municipality in Croatia have a data for consumption in service sector, but service sector, some service sectors go into industrial sector in Croatia. So we need to share this consumption to industrial sector and for service sector, and then validate this simulation data with actual measured data. But for example, we have in our ESG base, that is information system for energy management, we can find here a negative value of surface some consumers entered not accuracy data. So this is necessary to implement monitoring the data accuracy to avoid this problem.
Very good. Are there some other questions? So if not, I will invite the third presenter, Zaneta Latarosca, to share her monitor. So Zaneta will take the presentation on inventory of individual heat sources in Mazovia Voivodeship. I hope my Polish is good enough.
Very good. It's very
Pronunciation the name.
I hope you can hear me all. I apologize for ventilator noise because we have a heat wave here, and of course air condition breakdown. So I will start to share my presentation. I hope I can do it. Okay. I hope you can see my screen. Yeah, great. Again, good morning. For those who don't know, my name is Żaneta Latarowska. As PO mentioned, I work as a project coordinator in Mazovia Energy Agency. And today I would like to share with you our new tool, our new toy, as our chief are saying. That is pretty new because it was developed 1 year ago. It is used for a specific reason that I will share with you and tell you. So let's start from the beginning. Why we needed to develop this tool. So in Poland, more than 70% of heat is generated in individual heating system, and only 24% is coming from the network. So the most dominant sector, as you see in the graph, is household, as almost 50% of the heat is coming from individual heating sources in private households. And those numbers are very high when we take to the consideration that not on even we are not sure how effective is production there, but also the difficulty of monitoring and controlling this data. Taking this into consideration, and also taking into consideration that solid fuels dominate in the heat production, at almost 50% of heat is coming from coal in Poland. It is believed also that Polish households burn 87% of the coal allocated into the household in the EU. So as you see, the change here is very much needed, and it's very much urgent at this stage. Unfortunately, when it comes to the heating in households, there is a huge lack of available data describing the condition of this sector. And there is lack of data on the state of not only energy efficiency in buildings, but also heat sources, heat technical data, and their parameters, and also fuels used, and many others. So probably also caused by this is lack of comprehensive strategy for the change that can be easily be implemented and have some real effect on the residents. So Mazovian voivodeship came together to first step of the change by implementing an act called Mazovian Anti-Smoke Resolution. And the act gives specific schedule and timeframes for citizens to follow to come to one essential goal, that is minimizing their air pollution. And the act states many things, amongst others that are most relevant at this stage, is that till January 2023, it is not allowed to use boilers for solid fuels that do not meet specific energy efficiency requirements that are stated in the norms. And also beyond that, till January 28, only the highest class of heat sources is mandatory. However, the biggest obstacle is how to effectively implement this act in real life and monitor it. Because of the structure, there is too little data available, as I mentioned, to estimate the needed fundings and the process of implementation. And not only this, but specifically in rural areas, there is still lack of knowledge, there is still lack of motivation, and there is still a very high number of energy poverty that has to be taken into account to implement those changes. And at this stage, considering all of those factors, Management Board of Mazovian Voivodeship approved implementation of heat source inventory. Municipalities and cities can apply for the funds not only to collect the relevant data, but also to promote the initiative, to promote the act, and maybe make a first step to some changes. This inventory will be analyzed by Mazovian Voivodeship to more effectively distribute fundings to local authorities. So the idea of possible funding is also a good motivation for the citizens to take part in these initiatives. And as we all know, the need creates the service. So here where Mazovia Energy Agency comes in and present the app to the local authorities. So how the app is looking. The Smart Invent, that's what we called it, application is our original approach to the this inventory of local individual heat sources initiative. The system works on the basis of 3 levels. I will describe them in details in a moment. Right now, I will present the general structure of the app. We have a web app through which residents can complete the surveys, central app, the whole brain of the system, and mobile app for the remote and field inventory. The app, based on the uploaded address database from municipalities, from cities, from the data that they collect during their for example, they're living for some already developed investments and from the general national data from resident surveys. Based on all this data, it generates reports considering relevant needed on the current situation in heat sector status. So from the start, the web application is a website through which residents can state and send all needed data by answering 16 questions regarding building structure, what type, what year, what cubature, what heating sources, and many others. Regarding thermomodernization already proceeded in the building and the thermomodernization plans. Regarding rest installation, heat sources, and consume fuel. So this survey is very easy and it's designed to minimize any mistakes coming from lack of knowledge or coming from any concerns that the resident have. There is almost no open questions because we check that it minimizes mistakes. Most of the questions is selecting relevant answer. There is also a lot of guidelines available. So as you can call it, a glossary that can help citizens with some terms that can be hard or confusing for them. There is also a possibility to add a question about the incomes. It depends on the municipalities and GDPR, but there is also a question regarding the incomes and the possible energy poverty. So the households with the lower income will receive this funding before anyone else. So then we have the central application with the whole database and management system. Here access is given to local authorities and the administrators of the system have possibility to process, to generate reports on relevant data, and they also can edit, add, delete data, and also maintain the whole mobile application, which at this stage is assigning interviewers to the location and monitor the interviewers. So as I mentioned, the mobile application for mobile devices, currently it is only used for field inventory. So if there is no data available on the households, if the citizens do not deliver any data through the website, if the municipalities do not have any data, if the energy suppliers do not have the household in their database of connection to the system, the interviewers go into the field and go house to house and complete the survey with the residents. With this app, it is possible to take pictures. It is possible to check data. If the interviewers have problems with identifying some heat source or some technical data. And this app is planned also to be extended not only for interviewers, but also for the resident use. But at this stage, the GDPR is not letting us to do that. So what kind of reports do we collect? The system generates right now 10 most relevant reports, but of course there are plans to expand that, for example, for emission reports that are calibrated with the air quality sensor in the municipalities. So it shows the map where the air pollution is the biggest. So the police or any other can have intervention in the sector. There are, of course, 2 reports just for monitoring inventory methods and attendance, saying how many households were analyzed and where is the data coming from. So is it coming from municipality data, web application on direct contact with the residents? The rest of the reports consist the most relevant data, such as building age structure, type of buildings, level of insulation of buildings, total fuel consumption per year, res use, heat sources with their profile and their technical state. So which class, which kind of, how many of them, which kind of chamber, the chamber is used, and a total now, and the application is showing us per municipality total number of heat sources for urgent replacement in the area. So here are some of the screens of the reports. Here we have the age structure of building and the type of buildings. We have fuels here. We have modernization plans here. So how many people plan modernization, how many people already proceed with modernization, how many people have proceeded with have installed the RES installation, what type of RES installation is installed. And here are the most relevant at this stage data with the heat sources and all the technical data about the heat sources. So it is very important for knowing in the municipalities how the structure looks, especially when we do not have this data, because many people have a very old heating source, and many people have even we estimated that 10% of individual heating source are made by citizens. So they prepare their heating source themselves and they use it for years. So they don't even have energy efficiency certificates, and there is also a lack of security here because there's many accidents. So to sum up, as I mentioned, this application is pretty new. We managed to test and improve it during our inventory in 5 municipalities. So right now we have 20,000 of records analyzed from all households from some households in Mazovia voivodeship. The inventory rate is pretty high, is between 50–60%, depending on the municipality. And in case of refusal of residents, cooperation, if they do not want to cooperate with us, we are assuming the worst case scenario, so which is the most emissive source. So it really is the citizen's interest to participate here. Also, it is not mandatory, so this 50–60% of attendance is pretty high at this stage. The law is changing in a month, so from July 2021, they will have to invent the heating source to the local authority. So it will be mandatory for them to state which kind of heating source they do use. But at this stage, it was not mandatory, so we still had to proceed with the data. And to sum up again, I strongly believe this approach is our best chance to collect realistic data on the private heating sector and private heating status to proceed with the system change and the distribution of relevant funding into municipalities and cities that do have a lot of heating sources to change. And if you have any questions regarding our app, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zaneta. Are there questions to Zaneta? So
I
if no
was
question-
curious.
Yes,
I was
please go.
just curious to know, not really on the app, but about the use of carbon, of coal.
Yeah.
And how this is tackled. I mean, I think you have some important issues related to employment, since you are producing quite a lot of coal in Poland, and so I think it's not easy for to implement policy pushing the energy shift. So how to deal with it?
It is very difficult because of our. It is also always pushed into our history and our tradition with the Silesia region and the mines factories. It is I think the most difficult is the people not willing to change their activity, and that they do not feel the need to change. So I believe the regulations are needed. So we cannot only promote the energy efficiency, we cannot only check the data, but there has to be very strict regulation and very strict maybe bills, you can call it, for the use of not effective energy sources and also for the use of coal, because the structure is not changing as quickly as we want to. Yeah.
But if I add something, responding to Silvia's question, what we face right now is the really comparable prices of the coal and gas electricity. So it's also the issue for private households whether to have the grid connection of gas and less work to provide energy to your building, or still keep to unhealthy, not flexible fuel like coal. So if not the private motivation, I would say it will be the financial motivation that will trigger the change. And what we face right now is absolute skyrocketing statistics and increase of PVs in Poland. And what we also observe is that the move towards electrification of heating. So we provide more and more year by year heat by using electricity. So it's also the issue whether I can produce myself the electricity based on PVs, or should I connect to the grid, or should I keep to the old-fashioned, outdated technologies like coal and so on. So right now we are living in a really interesting period of our energy transition right now. But in my opinion, it's going from one monopoly to the other, from coal to gas. We can argue what is better, but I think it's not the ideal energy mix for our country. So I'm really happy to see lots of investments, lots of also private investments in renewables.
Yeah. Thanks, Bartosz and Zaneta. My question and remark was more social. I mean, I feel also. What about intergenerational feeling about use of coal? I mean, young people, are they joining this this movement, environmental movement? So I was wondering if it is also a social issue, you know, between generation, between employment in the mines, in the coal mines, and I don't know.
The young generation is strongly against the coal economy, so they are pushing towards the faster reforms in our energy sector. There are many environmental strikes, I would say, and happenings with many young peoples behind that, or mostly triggered by the younger generation. So that's the very optimistic thing. But let me refer to my conversation from the last week with CEO of one of district heating companies. Believe it or not, but it's really hard to buy coal right now in Poland. So if you are running a district heating company, which is partly based on coal and gas, let's say, it's really hard to buy coal. Why? Because the prices are skyrocketing. And if you calculate the gigajoule on basing on coal and basing on gas, it's really comparable. So it's, as I said, it will be, I hope, also the economic factor that will push the transition into renewables and to more modern and more innovative ways of to provide energy technologies to the market simply.
But even with this data collection, it is very hard to speak with older people. They have their minds very set. You cannot change what they think, and you cannot persuade them into something that they do not strongly believe. And I strongly agree with Bartosz that the newer generation is coming very close and will definitely shift the transformation. But the funny thing is that the most common argument for older people that they use, why do they not want to change their heating source, is that they will be dead till it will matter. So you can't argue with that, but it's still, you should see above their living situation and see how their children and grandchildren will experience that, their choices also.
Very good. Maybe I have another question before to give the word to Giulio. So, Zanita, what I understood from your smart invent. So you are making a database on the quality of buildings and heating system in a region of Volvo ship. And I think that the next step should be what Lucica has presented, or maybe what Lucica has presented, that you using simulation tool investigate how some fossil sources, maybe you switch to natural gas or you switch to heat pumps, or the electrification of heating system may affect on the energy input, so amount of energy that you need for heating, and also on the quality of the air if you make also such a kind of analysis. So how in order to give advice to the policy maker, what is the best strategy to decarbonize or to make less carbon impacting the heating system?
I agree. I totally agree with this approach because the lack of data was always an issue, because we could not make this estimation, we could not make this proposition when we don't know the reality of the structure of the heating system in Poland. And I strongly believe that this inventory is few years behind and it should be developed a bit earlier. But at this stage, we want to make sure that this data will not be just collected and not analyzed and not pushed more. So I strongly believe that this is the right approach that you proposed here, and that's where we're gonna go next.
Very good. So maybe we can share more information during the roundtable. So Giulio, now you have the possibility to present your results. So Giulio Cerino works at Politecnico di Torino. He will have a presentation on from Turin Energy Observatory to the Piedmont Environmental and Energy Plan, 20 years of lesson learned. So Giulio, you have the word.
Okay. Just 1 second. I don't know if you are, you see the presentation, it's correct? Okay. We'll talk about the experience that we have starting from Turing Energy Observatory, sorry. And until now, we are working on the Piedmont Environmental and Energy Plan. 20 years of lesson learned, in my case, are 12 years. 20 for Silvio, because these activities start with a cooperation between the Politecnico di Torino, the Energy Department, and the province of Turin with Silvio. And I will talk about the problem that we face in our activity and what the organization and systematization of the regional energy data or energy data is for us. I saw different presentation talking about different application and activity based on regional or energy data. And in my opinion, it's there are some things that are very important when starting an activity of collecting energy data. The first question is why you are making this. In some cases, you have a defined objective. You need it. You need the data, for example, to energy balance, for example, or you are working on energy data because your activity is related to data sharing, and you have a defined standardized way to share your data. For example, you need to publish your data in a Eurostat defined standard. In some kind here I didn't said, but you don't know why you are collecting them, because you started the collection and you want then to create a different instrument. Sometimes you will create instrument after the collection of the data. In some cases also some year after you have collected the data, and so when you start the collection data, you have not the complete view of your activity that you will do on those data. It's important, in my opinion, to organize and systemize data in a way that you will be able to reuse it in the future, and also it's important to have data, regional energy data organized and systemized, because you will need to compare your data set with previous data set. For example, in the European policy, sometimes the European goal asks to reduce our CO2 emission with a reference year, and you will need the data related to a past reference year. And it's important to understand when the data has been collected, the quality of data also. And I will start with some sentences that I take from the third energy report of the province of Turin. The collection of information and its systemization and publication in summary document is an activity that is indispensable to create the knowledge framework. I think that these sentences and another one that I will show you later are very important. This is related to the activity of 2005, but we can after 15 years the synthesis is valid. When we approach the data organization and systematization, it's important to think that you are not the only actor in the data organization and systematization. For example, all the activity that I will present, it's related to different actors. Here I show some, but we have many actors. Regione Piemonte, because are owned by Regione Piemonte. Regione Piemonte has their in data organization and systematization. There is the Politano. We provide in general models and analysis on data, and we have the CSA Piemonte on the right, that is the IT company, because all of those data are stored in a server and must be shared. And so we have the IT company that manage all the servers. And then we have different actors related to national statistics and to data collection activity in a specific sector, for example. And it's important in all the activity related to the data organization and systematization to look to the different data collection and to understand all the standards and all the definition used by each single actor. Because looking to the data is difficult, The data, as the other presenter show, you have lack of data in some case, and it's very important to find different data sources, database to make a comparison. I will show you some experience by Polytechnical Regione Piemonte. And another important things, in my opinion, related to energy data is to catch a mole, and so also to try to have different database related to the energy data, to energy measurement at different level, and so if possible to find different data sources in order to be able to compare the results of model or compare the result of the aggregation of data. For example, we can have data at municipality level, and we can have also data measured at the regional level. It's important to try to aggregate data to municipality level and compare them with the regional data in order to understand if we have a consistent database of data, if there are lacking, and for example, or to understand the model simulation. It's important also not only to collect energy data, but to try to collect all the data in data set and databases related to connected to data information that are connected to the energy data. For example, climate data, because climate affects the energy consumption, or for example, building data, as we have seen in the presentation before, because it's important also to be able to create a relation between type of building and energy requirement. It's important also to try to look forward in order to collect the data today, but that could be used, as I mentioned before, in the next 5 years, for example, to make model, and so try to collect them all. Yeah. And I think that the best solution is to have the higher level of detail. When we are approaching data in general, and some actors ask us which detail do you want the data? Usually we answer the higher level of detail. Then I will aggregate data, but I need to have the raw data. It's very important. And it's important, but it's difficult. This is the second sentence that I take from the fourth report, the energy report, because you need a reliable database. First of all, before starting data collection, it's important to clarify the structure of the local market, to identify who holds the information, and then to quantify the energy flow, for example, record each year. I will show you some experience, some slide related to the Italian case. For example, in order to understand how many actors and the information you can collect, I think that will be useful also for the other partner, because sometimes when the data collection and when the data collection activity starts, people focus only on a single source of information, thinking that a single source it's okay. Another information, another things that is very important to keep all the original raw data. It's very important because we are working, for example, now, and we are working on data used in the last 10 years, for example. And in 10 years, also the capability to work with data is improved. And if we have the original raw data, after 5-10 years, we are able to implement new models also on the past data. It's important because the model has their own evolution, and for example, a data, a simulation, or a measurement made some years ago could not be consistent with recent measurement simulation because the model changed or the detail of the data also changed. And so it's important to keep all the original raw data. Do not delete them. Talking about clarify the structure, for example, of local market, I show here a slide related to the electricity market in Italy. After the liberalization of the market, for example, you can see that we have many actors. We have the generation side, the TSO, transmission, dispatching, we have the distribution, then we have the electricity market and the retail. In some cases, all of these actors have their own information. As an example, talking about the data that we collect, we have data related to generation and import. In Italy, these data are typically collected by the TSO. And so this all the upstream side and midstream is accessible by talking with the TSO. The TSO has statistical report, but also has data collection with the level that is typical in Italy, national and regional level. Talking about electricity, we can access to data related to the different electricity needs divided by sector at regional level, for example. Then, if we want a higher level of detail, we need to go to the distribution. And why to the distribution? Because all the energy meter are for the distributor. So there is an activity that will be realized related to talk to all the distributor. Then I will show you some experience related to natural gas, not electricity, but currently, if we talk to the distributor, we can access data related to, for example, lower level of detail, not regional, but at municipality level. It's important then to try to compare the data from TSO at regional level and the aggregation of the distribution in order to evaluate if the data are consistent. Then electricity market, for example, we have data related to the energy prices. The retail, I wrote, it's a jungle. It's not possible to have data from the retail. It's a very huge activity to have those data. But for example, talking about the activity that data collection, organization, and systemization would need, it's important to understand that all these activities are very huge in terms of time. For example, here it's the activity of Regione Piemonte related to the energy data collection of natural gas. Each year, Regione Piemonte study activity and ask to more than 50 sources all the information related to the natural gas distributed with the level of detail at a single municipality. In Regione, we have 1,200 municipalities. The activity take a time frame of 6 months. And so it's important to understand that all these activities are very time-spending activity. Then it's important to look to all the data. For example, it's in Italian in this slide, but it's easy to understand. When we ask all those data, there is the possibility that each distributor give us data in a different way. We have different categorization of the data related to uses, and we have the distinction to industrial sector, T1 and T2, or other sector. And all the data here are then someone give us data divided by sector, domestic, tertiary, or industry, or the data by user. And we have the distinction domestic, apartment block, and public authorities and other uses. We have some cases of distributor giving us data related to all of the three typology of data. And looking at those data, we create model, we analyze data, and we try also to understand if all these data, all these information are consistent. In our activity, the activity that we made as a Polito based on the data, there is a very huge work after the 6 months of work. Analyze and validate those data, because we saw in those years of experience that not all the data are consistent and are good. For example, if we make an analysis by sector, it's very good to have data by sector, but looking to the data, we saw that the data divided by sector are not good data, because distributors are not able to follow all the changes of the final user, and so the data by sector are not good to analyze sector. It's a problem. And it's important, this activity that I showed you, it's important to understand that if you have the possibility to have different data, ask different data, because if you need data by sector, is not sometimes you ask data by sector, but the data that the distributor in our case give to us are not by sector. Data are wrong. Then other activity, make data comparison and validation. As also Pio told before, if you create a model, are you able to verify the information that you have, the simulation, the result of your simulation? We work in parallel of the activity of taking data of other model, also with the goal of the model is to evaluate the energy requirement of the residential sector. We build the model based on climate data and dwellings data, for example. We work with the national census data on dwellings, and we try to estimate all the energy consumption on all the energy requirement related to different fuel, natural gas, diesel, and for example, wood. We make an independent model, and then we try to understand if the simulation, the data that we simulate with the model were consistent with the data that we give from the distributor. And so we are now able to have a model, a very detailed model. We talk about a model with a level of detail to the single building. That these are the first application of the model of some years ago on the province of Turin and Cuneo, another province. Now the model is working on the regional data. And so we have a model based on single dwellings data related to dwelling typology and to the dwelling thermal plant that could estimate the order of magnitude with a very good precision of the energy requirement divided by fuel of each municipality. Is this model the final model? No. We use in some cases the model estimation to correct data that come from distribution. and we use also the model to have to verify the data from the distribution. We have, when we ask data, we have a model that is able to told us to have an alert. Take attention because the data that the distributor gives to you could not be consistent. And so we have model and real data measurement that talk each other. And other data sources that we use, for example, is the cadastre of the thermal plants. We use the data related to the information to the thermal plants installed in a region. We have here, you can find a link of the national standard of information that are required when the thermal plants is installed or the efficiency check on the thermal plants is done. We have the cadastre of thermal plants where all the information are. We have a lot of information related to fossil fuel thermal plants. We have a very good level of information on the solar. We have a very huge lack of information, for example, on all the biomass plant. We have no information. If we look to the cadastre of thermal plants, currently we have a very few information to biomass. And so, for example, talking about biomass, we are using this model because if we knew the model work with a very good level of detail to the other energy sources, we can think that also the information related to wood log and pellet use could be with a good order of magnitude. And how we organize the data, we systemize data. We have data organized also on simple Excel spreadsheet, for example. And then when we talk with the consortium, CSA, we then they store data on a server. For example, it's important when you create a cadastre of or other data set to try to have a unique ID. It's very important, and to have, for example, here you can find in the first column the national code related to the municipality. Because if you create a data set, a database with also more information than the energy also information, you have the possibility, for example, with the code and related to the municipality to make a cross correlation between different databases and try to analyze energy with the population, energy with the climate data, energy consumption with the lower temperature in winter, in order to understand, for example, if the power of the thermal plants is related. And then another thing that I think that is very important is not only to look to the energy actors, because for example, if we look to energy, the higher level of detail that we have in Italy, it's owned by the tax agency of the Italian public administration, Agenzia delle Entrate. Why? Because they need to have a very higher level of detail to make the calculation of to all the taxes and duties related to the energy needs. For example, here the graph that I have reported is related to the changing in the consumption of electrical energy for all the single point of delivery, and so in each single dwelling in the city of Turin. When we went to the city of Turin, we talked about the office related to tax and duties, and we asked to the officer to have to all the data related to energy consumption. They, 2 years ago, give us 10 years of data with a level of details of single dwellings with time level of detail of 1 year of consumption. And so now we are able to understand that there is energy efficiency in dwellings, for example, in houses, because we have a lot of that has a distribution that has a mean value around, for example, 1,000 of kilowatt hour. And 10 years ago, we have a distribution that has higher value on higher consumption. And so, for example, in Italy, the higher level of detail of energy is not from TSO and not from an energy company. Another aspect that is very important in the organization and systematization of GIS application, open GIS like QGIS, ArcGIS, or here on the right, it's the Excel add-in that all the last version of Excel own. But working with the GIS, it's important because you are obliged to work with a defined standard, talking about municipality, talking about census parcel, for example. Here in Italy, we can work with detail related to the census parcel easily. Census parcel is a parcel with a detail of neighborhood, yeah. And other activity where we are working on is to try to work with very high related to the address. And so try to geolocalize address is very important. We have, in the case of Agenzia delle Entrate, the National Tax Agency, we have data related to the single address. And if we want to try to localize this consumption, compare with the data related to municipalities or other data, it's important to geolocalize it. You have a lot of instruments. We work, for example, with the Google APIs geolocalized data. And also we work with the offline method. For example, with the fuzzy logic algorithm, that are algorithms that are very useful if you need to compare addresses. Addresses, there is a mistake. And why? Because, for example, we have different databases with different addresses standard. And so if you want to go very in detail, it's important to try to define some standardized coding for the address. For example, if you have databases that are not consistent with address data, you can use fuzzy logic to try to geolocalize data and compare addresses data. We work, for example, with this kind of logic to compare data related to the Agenzia delle Entrate, the taxes data related to the cadastre of thermal plants, because we have data related to the address, and to work with the data related to the building by the national census of each single building. And so trying to compare all this data, we have created our own model that is able to simulate collect from the distributor or from the other actors. And the last part that in my opinion is very important, and to share the data. Because when you need to share data, you need to define a standard. So it's important because you need to stop and think to the level of detail of the data and the accuracy of the data. You need to give metadata, and so to give information about your activity, your methodology, the data precision, and to give the possibility to other people to access this data, work with this data, because in some cases other people found the mistake. If you find the open data portal, for example, all the data related to natural gas for each municipality shared with open data and Creative Commons licenses, and we are working to update data for also for the other energy sources. There is also diesel is online, solar collector data and solar collector energy estimation is online. We need to complete the data related to district heating system, for example. But working with open data, it's another activity that is very important to have the possibility to have a comment on your. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Giulio. Very interesting presentation. Maybe are there some questions? So no questions. I think so. Maybe we can make the question time, and we can also combine with the round table, since we have still more or less 10 minutes, not so much. So I would just ask to Giulio, Zanetta, Ruzica. Andreas is no more there. So we have seen now an overview on how important are the data for making planning, on taking decision, on mostly on the energy sector, what we have seen now. So what is, based on your experience, what is missing to do something better than what we have done till now? To you, Giulio. We cannot, okay, no.
Yeah. Okay. It's a good question. It's difficult to answer. It's I suppose that a thing that is missing is let me say a single governance. For example, a single view of all the database information, because as I told before, in my case, I spend a lot of time to working on data in order to be able to make all the data to be correlated. And so if I think to my dream, I don't know, is to have define standard, define standard to share all the energy data, because for example, I build my own standard, and it's my own it's my standard. For example, I work with Google APIs, and I think geolocalization is very useful. Why? Because I suppose that the Google standard, fortunately or unfortunately, Google is a very large company and can impose its own standard. And so if I work with the address of Google, I'm quite sure that all my geolocalization activity could be shared in worldwide. With, for example, I work also with Microsoft Bing geolocalization, but Microsoft Bing do not talk with Google. And so you need, for example, to go with system information. with GIS, but also working with the coordinate system and GIS software, you could use different coordination system. And so also in GIS, there is a standard. If I need to geolocate or to have data, every time I need to make a conversion between coordinate system and all the information. You spend a lot of time to trying to make.
Yeah, you are right. The standardization is a very important topic when you work with data, and it, as you said, it can speed up the elaboration of data if you have a standard, or can speed down if you don't have it. So, Janita, in your point of view, what is missing for improving your activity? So, I mean, you are collecting data, you are making a big picture, which will be used for the decision taker or maker. What could be done better?
My answer will be a bit dictatorial, I think, because I'm a bit sick of asking, and I would really much appreciate some national obligatory regulation in Poland and enforcement of this regulation, because right now there is still just asking citizens, please fill in this information, please give us this data. It is not good enough most of the time. We try to give carrots, and now it's time for a stick. So this national regulation are needed, maybe EU regulation and the enforcement of this regulation, some bills maybe, because collection of this data is so important in Poland, because we do not have idea how to distribute the fundings to meet the needs of the citizens, and they do need to the collection of this data do not take so much time from their side. It is a 15 minutes survey, and we have all what we need, and they still 50%, almost 50% of people still do not want to take part in this. So I would say that I am a dictator, and I would like to make some regulation.
The customer should do the awareness on this topic should be more important for the customer. So maybe some social activity needs to explain how important is that the customer also actively participate on this process.
Truth is that people that take part in this social activity, that do read this leaflets or something, they already participate in this activity. So the most difficult are the people that do not want to participate and do not. We cannot fight an argument with them. So we just need to present.
Maybe should be given an incentive. Maybe the people which participate will have for 5% reduction bill for 1 month. Maybe some kind of when we talk about money, you will see that everybody will understand it. So yes, maybe some kind of activity can be useful.
Yes, we try very hard, but I still believe that some more regulations should be. And as I mentioned to you, in June there will be a mandatory to say to the local authorities what kind of heat source do you have. But still, the regulatory are not saying the technical parameters. So we will know the what kind of boilers the citizen have, but we would not know how old it is, what kind of fuel are they burning. So this data is enough. Still, as Julio said, that standardization is for both of these activities is needed also.
Yeah. So, Rudzika, in your point of view, what could be done better for, I would say, suggest to the decision maker the results that you have obtained, how they could be used from the decision maker?
Okay, sorry, I'm sorry, I have a meeting at 12 o'clock, so I'll be brief. Data need to be prepared at the lowest possible levels, and later it is easy to analyze them at higher levels. In Croatia, we have some data at higher levels at, for example, at the county level, but not in detail at the municipality level. In addition, it is always good to have data on an hourly or daily basis, not just on a monthly basis, which is case for us. And develop the monitoring the data accuracy.
Very good. So we can summarize that it's important to have high resolution data with high accuracy data. The data should be delivered with a standard, and that the who delivers the data. So from Cytogen to, I don't know, TSO or DSO, they should be in somewhere maybe or either incentivized or sensibilized to participate this process of data collection. So I would say we can conclude in this way. Have you some other points which we can depict?
Yep. I just one quick. I saw in our activity working with other research group, other stakeholder, other actors, that it's something strange, but in a lot of projects there is a very huge amount of money spent in the we call the boxes that contain the data. And we have a lot of instrument, a very high detail instrument that we can buy to work with data, to have to operate with all the data with a super higher level of detail. But this activity of take the data is always not financed. And so also to try to move some of the economy, not on the final instrument, the IT instrument that need to work with the data, because in a lot of projects we saw that after create the super IT system, you don't have the data to put inside the instrument. And so it's also important to try to build, in my opinion, a project related only to the taking data. And that is an activity that is essential if you want to fill all of those boxes that we have to be filled that we have from different projects.
Very good, Giulio, what you point out. Are there other points that you would like to point out? Questions to all the guests of the meeting. So if not, I will say that we can conclude. I thank you very much for sharing with us your experience on data collection. And yes, I think that the meeting has been also recorded, so you can see on the Prospect website the recorded file. And yes, we see us to another meeting, Prospect meeting. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. And I recommend everybody to upload presentations on Drive, and also the list of participants. I think from APEP they can generate the list and keep track of that. Thank you, Io, for this very good workshop. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Silvio. So have a nice week to everybody.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.